Hey everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Frame, a podcast where we talk about movies. I'm Eric.
And I'm Riley.
And today we are talking about Top Gun Maverick and Point Break. Riley, I gotta ask, did you feel the need for speed?
I have to say confidently that yes, I did, because this was the only movie I've willingly gone to the theater to see twice in my entire life. I think there's only one other movie that I've seen in theaters twice, and I think that was The Last Jedi. Or not The Last Jedi, sorry, The Force Awakens. And that's just because our family has this tradition where we go see a movie on theaters, or go see a movie in theaters on Christmas Day. And that was the movie that was picked. But it came out, I'm going to say like it came out around the 20th of December. And I was like, there's no way I'm waiting 5 days to go see this new Star Wars movie. So I seen it then, knowing I would have to watch it again. But yeah, no, Top Gun, completely different experience. I wanted to go see that. I would have gone and seen it a third time if our mutual friend would have gone and seen it with me. I'm feeling the need for speed.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I actually have a similar story to The Force Awakens that you had. Watched it with my friends, and then, same thing, went and saw it with my family over Christmas break. And I think that's the second movie that I've seen twice in theaters. I'm pretty sure I saw the first Avengers movie twice.
Okay. Well, and that's a pretty cool experience, because you say what you want to say about the Marvel universe, but I'm going to be surprised if we ever see something to that degree ever again. That was 10 years in the making.
Yeah.
That was just this culmination of... I'm sorry, that wasn't 10 years in the making. Infinity War was 10 years in the making. But still, that was like the first big team up that... it was the results of what I think 5 or 6 movies came before then. But that was a cool experience. I can see that.
Yeah, definitely worth... in my mind, and as a teenager, definitely worth it. Yeah, so Top Gun. I think my initial thoughts were, and I'll preface this by saying that I didn't go in with low expectations because there was a lot of hype. I had you in our Discord hyping it up. I had been reading reviews about it, and it was hyped up. But I went in not knowing exactly what to expect, because I always remembered Top Gun and Maverick as a character being just kind of flat. Like the movie of Top Gun had emotion, punched well above its weight emotionally. But I always thought that Tom Cruise plays one note characters and Maverick was kind of a one note character. This blew me all out of the water. He shed a tear in this movie, and that was really nice to see. And if I had to sum it all up, it was unexpected and fun. And I haven't seen a movie in the theaters that was like that.
Yeah, I feel like I'm at risk here of just vomiting everything about this movie. So I think before in previous podcasts we've said, beware minor spoilers. This might be one where it's major spoilers. I'm gonna try to withhold some of the surprises, but no, same kind of thoughts. I've seen the original Top Gun before. I didn't remember it that well. I'm going to be honest. I think I maybe seen the original Top Gun. Last time I would have saw it was probably about 4 years ago, and I didn't remember it that well. I didn't have any strong nostalgia, because I don't think I seen the original Top Gun as a kid or a teenager, but I think I watched it first when I was in university. So I didn't have those strong attachments. And obviously I'm not an 80s baby. I'm your classic mid-90s baby. So didn't get to experience it when it was released. So I didn't have a ton of expectations or weight going into Top Gun Maverick. My interest in Top Gun Maverick was strictly because I knew that it was practical effects that they used to shoot these scenes, and that part amazed me. I didn't think I was going to care about the story. Didn't think I was going to care about the characters. I was really just going in to see planes go whoosh and then Danger Zone playing in the background. Those were my expectations. But like you, I think this movie deserved a sequel. I understand now why it took 30 years to get a sequel, just even to let the technology advanced to the point where you can get to this point. And like, I'm gonna assume this is Tom Cruise who brought this in, because he's just an absolute perfectionist when it comes to his movies. But there's like emotional stakes to this movie, and I we'll talk a little bit later, maybe when we kind of talk about the plot. There's a few points I didn't like, but in general, like, there's deserved emotional points. Like, for instance, when minor spoiler here, towards the third act in the movie, Tom Cruise has an emotional love interest, because he's Tom Cruise and he needs one. And before the third act begins, there's just this scene where they're standing on the beach in silence, and that's one of those scenes which really hit me, because at that point, you, without needing to say words, the director, Tom, Jennifer Connelly, they conveyed this thing where it's like, okay, I might not be coming back from this, and that's all you needed. And I felt that emotion. There was more explicit scenes of emotion where, like you said, you see Tom shed a tear and stuff, and that's stuff you didn't get in the original. I guess Tom did cry when Goose died in the original, but I don't know. Everything just seemed earned in this movie.
Yeah, I guess he goes from being like this guy who needs to prove himself and is like a hot shot and is dangerous because he just lives dangerously, to like this person who like really values life and like protecting Rooster. So yeah, I think that is another thing that surprised me, was just how much of an arc Maverick had as a character. I was not expecting that. I was more expecting it to just be the same thing over again. Yeah.
So for maybe those people who haven't seen either Top Gun or Top Gun 2, I guess, like, to kind of summarize the story. So in Top Gun 1, you get Maverick, who's played by Tom Cruise, who is just this stellar pilot. He's accepted into this aerial school in the U.S. military, which is nicknamed Top Gun. And from there, most of that movie is just him in Top Gun Academy, competing with other students to graduate to be at the top of his class. At the end of the mission, they fly out on this, or at the end of the story, rather, Tom graduates with all of his other colleagues, and they go out on this quick mission to defeat a couple of enemy aircrafts. That's basically the story. It's really like it's a cheesy academy story where people are trying to become the best, but there is kind of real stakes going on in the background. Whereas in Top Gun 2, which picks up 30 years after the original Top Gun, Maverick's still around. Instead of being a Top Gun instructor, which is kind of where they left him at the end of Top Gun, instead he flies planes. He's a test pilot. He feels the need for speed. That's where he is most comfortable with. That's where he likes being. And eventually Top Gun calls him back. They say, Maverick, there's a mission here. It's something we've never seen before, and you're the only one who can teach these pilots on how to complete it. And a big part of the emotional stake is, in the original, Maverick's co-pilot, his name was Goose, and was also his best friend, passed away. And now in Top Gun Maverick, Goose's son, who has the great code name of, or call sign rather, of Rooster, is one of these people that Tom now has to teach, or Maverick has to teach.
Yeah, that's a very good high level summary. And it's basically just a like anime training arc. The whole, like, the first movie mostly. I wanted to get your opinion on the like emotional through line from like Goose to Rooster. Like, did you find that? So there's a scene at the bar early on where like Rooster first comes in, and he starts playing on the piano, and he plays a song that his dad played, and Maverick starts having flashbacks to that. Did you find like any of the other like emotional ties between Goose, Rooster, Maverick? Did you find that they were like overdone, or were they done with like a nice tact to it, where it wasn't, for lack of a better word, contrived, I guess?
So you are immediately pulling on the thread of the thing I like the least about the movie.
Okay. Okay.
So Rooster being kind of the next main character of the movie and the emotional driving force made a lot of sense to me. Because obviously Goose played a large part of Maverick's evolution into who he was, both at the end of the original Top Gun and kind of where he's at now. Like even at the start of the movie when he's test piloting this fictional plane, the Dark Star. He's just in silence. He's like, "Speak to me, Goose," and he references that at a couple points in the movie. So as a plot device, it makes sense to me, but nothing with Rooster hating Maverick made sense to me and didn't feel earned. And I'm going to tell you why. And this is something that my partner also pointed out, and she actually added a little bit to it. So after Goose died, the story basically is Maverick steps in as kind of like a pseudo father and helps out Rooster's mom. He tries to be there for Rooster before he adopted his call sign, just Bradley. And it seemed like their relationship was good because he was there during that point in Bradley or Rooster's life. It seems the problem, like when their relationship actually broke apart, was when Maverick pulled his application to the Air Force. So then they seem to have a good relationship beforehand, and then after he pulled the papers, bad relationship. But then why are we now getting into things like my dad trusted you, I'm never going to make that mistake again? Like, if you had a good relationship for like 20 years, it seems like you didn't blame Maverick for your dad's death then. Why are you suddenly now blaming him for all this stuff just because your application got pulled? That part, it didn't make sense to me, and it also went to such extremes. Like, although the corkscrew spiral to the ground was a really cool scene, but like Rooster's like shouting at him, he was like, "I'll go as low as you go." Though those parts didn't feel earned to me, but it didn't detract too much from the movie for me because all the scenes behind it were so cool. It's just that part did not feel like it was necessary, it was earned, or deserved.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, runtime wise, those scenes are so minimal. They just needed to be there to push along like the emotional part of the story. But even though it seemed to come out of nowhere, this like hate that Rooster had for Maverick, I was still like cheering at the end when they finally hugged.
Oh yeah, no, you love it. Like so, I really like the third act.
Yeah, and yeah, I think that just shows how good it was at tying up all of those like plot threads together to create like a satisfying ending. I did not like right before they were about to take off on the mission, which we'll talk about. I didn't like that they did that cliche where they were about to like say something and then like the alarm like went off, or like the ready timer like went off for them to like go. And I was like, come on, you could have just like, it was a little too cliched, but I mean,
I'm a sucker for those things.
It's a Top Gun movie. And
I didn't mind that at all.
It did not take me out of it. It was just a thing I thought of afterwards. I was like, okay, that's like one very small nitpicky issue. And I mean, we'll get to my rating in the end, but I still rated it very highly. So.
Oh yeah, no doubt. My rating's super high, and to be honest here, you're not seeing Top Gun Maverick likely for the story. You're likely seeing it for other reasons. The fact that it has a good story with mostly excellent character development, that's just like the cherry on top with some whipped cream.
100%. Like, I thought I was just going to go see some cool dogfights, and it easily could have went into like the campy seriousness. Like Jurassic World Dominion is like how the contrast that I was using for this. That movie takes itself super seriously, even though it makes some jokes and it's about big dinosaurs. It still tried to have like a serious message of like environmentalism and, you know, coexisting with other animals. And this movie did not have any of that, and it's so much stronger for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess because like Top Gun 1 wasn't super cheesy. Like it definitely had some of that 80s cheese, but
It still took itself very seriously.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I've been watching like behind the scenes featurettes about Top Gun Maverick, and like the one thing that Tom Cruise harps on is like he wants to have the utmost respect for like the actual Navy and these pilots, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why it does take itself so seriously. But I agree completely. This was they did it well in terms of the tone.
They respected all aspects of it.
If there's one reason why you should go see this movie in theaters, it's that one scene where they finally start training, and then the two pilots or the two planes are flying side by side, and then Maverick's like, "All right, let's begin," and then he like shoots up in between the middle of them, and then and then you like don't get fooled again. The scream just goes, and it's like, "Yeah, do." Oh, that was such a good scene. That was one of the scenes that just like made me smile.
I felt like I was thinking as I was going into the movie, okay, what's the mission going to be? How are they going to make this? How are they going to drive the stakes up? And how are they going to make this like really, really cool to watch the planes like fly? Like what kind of mission are they going to do? And I was so happy that it was like this almost like Death Star trench run, like Star Wars style thing. Well, because like with the canyon and then having to hit like the little target, and then like there, even when Maverick says to Rooster, like, don't think, just do. And I was like, oh, that's like Obi-Wan saying trust the Force, and then he still like he actually hit it without the targeting system, and I just think that was really cool and a great way to just like show us these planes being like pushed to their absolute breaking point. There's like during one of those scenes where they're doing the simulated like pull up and then roll over and then down the other side of the mountain. Like watching the actors like faces, and they're just like they're hearing their breathing change. Like it's so visceral. I think Top Gun, the original Top Gun, captured some of that, but it is so much more prevalent in this movie, and it left me like hanging on like every scene, every shot of them. I was like on the edge of my seat.
Well, and I would like to talk about how they shot this movie later, but like just building on your point here. Yes, they're acting, but they're also not acting.
No, it's
because
actual G-forces.
When they're doing those scenes, I think they weren't pulling anywhere like 10 Gs, but I think they were hitting like 7.5 Gs, which is it's still significant. And like even so in that scene you're talking about, so when they're practicing the climb and then the inverted flip, so when they actually do that scene in the third act, when they execute it, during the flip, Miles Teller's character Rooster, he hits the roof of the airplane.
Yeah, he does.
Because apparently his straps weren't tight enough. And that was real. That wasn't acting. Like they were just like, oh crap. No, his straps weren't tight enough. And that was just one of those scenes where it just looked so good that they kept it. But no, like he hit the roof. Like there was no way of controlling it because they're just going so fast and they flipped upside down. So it's really interesting because yes, they're acting these scenes, but they're also still experiencing these scenes. So to a degree, they're not acting at all.
Yeah, come on, method actors, catch up. Actually strap yourself into an airplane next time.
And actually, maybe I'll just jump right straight into how they shot this. This is so cool because just from a straight like filmmaking and directorial perspective, because in each of these planes, they had real pilots flying them. I don't know if they had actual Top Gun pilots flying them, because I know they did interact with like the Top Gun school a lot and consulted with them. So I don't know if they were actually the pilots or if other people was doing it. But point being, they had pilots in the front seat, and then they had an IMAX camera in front of every single actor. And what's interesting is all these actors had to also learn how to become directors and cinematographers, because as soon as those planes go up, the director didn't see them again for another hour. So he'll kind of like tell them what to do. But once they're up, it's each of the actors' responsibility to like make sure they have enough sweat on their face, if their makeup needs touching up, whether the camera's recording, whether it's getting a good angle, whether the sunlight is too much, whether they need to like adjust the lighting in the scene. So they all had to learn cinematography and directorial strategies to a degree, and they were responsible. And the only time that those scenes got reviewed was when they landed again, and at which case they'd have to maybe prepare for another take. But it's just interesting from being a director on this film, because really you're setting the stage, you're telling people what you want to see, but you're not the one in front of the camera. Like, he'll be down there kind of capturing like B footage, but in terms of like the actual scenes, he's putting all of his trust into the pilots, because they have to actually act the choreographed scenes, and the actors to actually make sure the equipment's running, that the lighting is good, that their makeup is good, all of that stuff. And then and it's the only way, because once the cockpit closes, they're the only ones there. And then in terms of like capturing all the dogfights, they use this special, it's called a Cinejet, and it's basically a jet with there's a camera mounted to it, but like the stabilization on it must be insane. I don't know how that technology works, but that jet is like kind of also participating in all the dogfights, watching or capturing the dogfights, but it's like up there flying. Like,
wow,
how cool is that?
The precision that you would need to execute these scenes. You have live fight, you have like, live fighters dog fighting, and then you have another jet filming it.
Yes.
That's insane. With like logistically seems like it would be a nightmare.
I don't know how they, like, this is the type of movie that seems impossible to make. But yet somehow it got made, and somehow it got made on a budget of less than 200 million, which also surprised me.
Yeah, that did surprise me when I was looking it up.
Especially when it took, I think they were renting those planes at $10,000 an hour or something.
Something insane like that.
Like, yeah, no, not cheap at all. But
wow. So you have to, so it's not even like logistics. It's also being, on the ball, making sure, like, economical, I guess, like to make sure that you get the scenes and get out, or any mistakes that you make, you rectify them right away, so you're not bleeding money.
Well, exactly. And like all these actors, because stepping away from the fact that they to some degree had to be their own directors and cinematographers, in order to even get to that stage where they were even allowed to go into planes, because I think the Navy said, if you're going into these planes, if the plane goes down or if you have to eject, you need to be able to survive in the ocean. So we're not letting you basically do what you want to do until we're satisfied that these actors can do that. So before, I
saw the training they had to go through.
Yeah, they did like,
it's crazy,
3 months of full on training just to get to that point. And also, like, it makes sense because you also have to condition your body, I guess, to a degree to sustain those G forces. But so much work.
Yeah, it's such an immersive way of acting, I guess, for these people, because you're living the life of a pilot for a year and a half or 2 years, maybe even, with the extra training that they have to go through.
It actually just blew me away how they made this movie. And what really excites me is the director who made Top Gun Maverick, Joseph Kosinski. He's making a Formula One movie with Brad Pitt next. At least I think that's his next movie. And he says he's going to try to use the same technology to shoot that. So maybe there's going to be cameras mounted in the back of these F1 or these Formula One machines, and maybe there's going to be another Formula One machine following them with a camera mounted on that, sort of similar to the Cinejet. So,
did you see Ford v Ferrari?
Oh yes, and I loved it. Yeah, that's an amazing movie.
I feel like you could definitely get a good effect. I feel like that movie used those types of techniques, at least to some extent. So yeah, that'll be interesting. I'll keep my eyes open for that, for this like next movie of his.
But they had this rule when filming this, and I'm sure this was Tom Cruise's rule. It could have also been Joseph's rule. But anytime you see a plane in the background or something, that is a real plane flying. Or anytime even with the fictional Dark Star jet at the start of the movie, because that's not a real plane.
Not
yet.
A real plane.
They had a real plane flying there, and they just CG coded it to make it look different.
Okay.
So like when you have that initial scene where the Dark Star is it's taking off and Ed Harris is standing there and there's the security booth beside him and the roof gets ripped off of that. The roof actually got ripped off. That was a one shot scene.
Amazing.
Like all of that stuff is practical.
That's
like so little
like, in
CGI
camera.
was used.
That's amazing.
Or like there's this other scene where while they're training for the mission, one of the jets is flying low, probably at like the 100 feet mark. And then when it goes to take off for that vertical climb, these two perfect little spirals of sand or dirt appear on either side. That was real. It's not even CG. The director was just like, yeah, as soon as I got those like two perfect swirls, I knew that was the shot.
They captured it all as is. That's very impressive. I'm glad you brought up the IMAX cameras in the cockpit because I think that really allowed me, at least, and as part of the audience, to like really connect with the pilots because you get to see all those little micro expressions that they make. And so you get that detail and it's very intimate, but then you also get to see out of the canopy and it feels expansive. Like it feels like you could look up and see above you. That's like how much of a view that you're getting. So I like applaud the dedication of the director, of Tom Cruise, like of literally everybody. I feel like this is one of those movies where you look at and you see just how much passion was in this project from everybody.
This is truly the first movie that I think I've probably ever seen where I'm like, this needs to be seen in a theater. Like I'm comfortable with seeing most blockbusters just like at my home, but this I don't know, to like get the full experience of this, you really owe it to yourself to actually go sit in a theater, experience the sound system where the room is just vibrating with the airplane jets and the noises, and you benefit from this massive crisp screen. I don't know, this is why the theater experience still exists, and this is the type of movie why it's probably still going to exist even though streaming has become just so popular.
Yeah, it's a good reminder to people that there is still a place for theaters. And, you know, it's way different from just sitting on your couch and watching it on Netflix. It was so real that my partner was getting motion sick from watching some of the scenes where they were flying through the canyon. She had to like look away a couple of times, which I totally could see if you're not used to that. Because they show you literally everything. And I love that. As somebody who loves planes, it was like a real treat in that respect too.
In terms of the plot, though, I think one of the reasons why I love the plot of this movie so much is I think it scratches that itch that movies like Ocean's 11, 12, and 13 do. Where,
it's like a heist.
Well, you know the mission in advance, and the movie is primarily, let's practice what we're going to do to accomplish that mission. We're going to break it down in all the steps, and we're going to master each of those. And
there's like
this
clear restrictions and parameters. Yeah.
Now, this isn't to the same degree. Like the training and preparation work for the mission is a lot less than in a movie like Ocean's 11, but it's still there where you know what you're doing from the outset, and it's just how are you going to achieve it? And it seems impossible while you're doing it, but they figure out a way.
Well, and the payoff is so good when, you know, it's kind of like the all is lost moment in this movie. But basically, like, the fact that the mission has like all these restrictions and you're watching these pilots go through the hardships of trying to overcome it, and then you see Maverick come in and just like blow the time out of the water. Like, that scene was so awesome, and it was just a simulation. But it wasn't even the actual mission. So I feel like you're right, it has like this element that keeps you, you know, wanting more, and you want to see them succeed.
That was by far one of the coolest scenes in the movie, and I think even my partner smiled at that scene, just like pure joy.
Yeah. You feel the adrenaline. And you feel the elation at the end. Yeah, it was really good. I I was like not caught off guard by that happening. Maverick is known for like as a character is known for like breaking the rules. So I'm not surprised that he stole a jet to do this, but I was just so happy to see it. Yeah, I was like, I had to stop myself from clapping because I didn't want to be that guy at the movie theater. But I was like, I was super stoked. I don't usually get amped up about movies like that.
Yeah, neither do I.
Yeah, like even I was so hyped for, I don't know, let's say Dune, another movie that I thought you needed to go experience in the theaters. It was not the same thing.
No, this is like on a league of its own.
It really
so
is.
Far.
Yeah.
But like turning back to the nostalgia of this movie, this was another thing that I really liked. It handled nostalgia in such a well done manner. So like we talked about the explicit nostalgia of Goose being an important plot device, Rooster being an important driving force for the movie. But there's a whole bunch of these really, really subtle uses of nostalgia that I found cheesy, and I loved it in the best way possible. So like we talked about some of the same songs appearing, but there's so many scenes of this movie that are a literal like recreation of scenes in the original movie. So the movie opens the same way with the same Top Gun explanation, and then it opens the same way afterwards with the scene of just planes taking off and landing on the carrier. You get the exact same shot of Tom Cruise riding on his bike and a sunset soak scene where there's a jet flying past him and he looks at it and he smiles. There's all these scenes which are literally identical to each other, but they're perfect. And then there's all these smaller, more subtle callbacks to the original movie. So like Penny wasn't a character in the original Top Gun, but in the original Top Gun, there's this story where Maverick flew an admiral's daughter in a plane, and her name was Penny. So here we have like this instant connection where we know who Penny is if you remember the first movie, and they don't explain it at all. But
no,
like she's someone referenced in the original movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know. I loved it.
It's done well. It's not heavy-handed.
No, not at all.
No. Even like the callback to the F-14, they have to fly it out of there in the end. You know, that's an iconic plane from the original movie. It's still an iconic plane in my opinion, but it's subtle and satisfying at the same time. It doesn't have to smear the screen with it, because in that case, my brain just shuts off. But in this, it keeps me invested. And I wasn't like a huge Top Gun fan, of like original Top Gun fan. I just knew it through osmosis of pop culture. And I watched the movie, but I knew about Maverick. I knew Talk to Me, Goose, before I saw the movie. And I felt like this was just as much for me as for somebody who's an original fan of Top Gun. That's pretty impressive.
It was also neat that they got Val Kilmer to come back, because Val Kilmer in real life is he has throat cancer.
He had throat cancer. Yeah,
he's done acting, and they incorporated that back into the movie. So it's cool that they brought him back for the scene that he was in. But also, there's a scene in the movie where Val Kilmer is talking. He's not actually talking there. They used AI to. Yeah, they just use AI to generate his voice. That was just another neat kind of thing. It's one of those things where nostalgia was done right. He didn't overstay his welcome. He was in and out. It also brought emotional levity to the thing, because now his good friend has died. I don't know. There's so many things done well.
And that's like my favorite line in the movie comes from that scene where it's so simple, but Maverick says, and they're referencing Rooster in this, he says, if I send him on this mission, he might not come back. If I don't send him, he'll never forgive me. Either way, I could lose him forever. And that was great. I thought that made me tear up a little bit, because you actually see Maverick like dealing with this like trauma of losing Goose in a very believable way.
Yeah. Yeah. Good
scene.
It really laid out the stakes of where Maverick was at as a character, then kind of just in his headspace. And like in addition to those emotional scenes, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the excellent shirtless beach football scene.
I want to play dogfight football. It looks fun with
to
the
be
two
honest,
balls.
how does it work? I don't know. Does
It
Maverick
doesn't
know how
matter.
it works? I think it's just people hitting each other and grabbing the
He
ball
even
and running
admits
to the
that
end.
they weren't keeping score.
Yeah, that was a great scene. But in addition to the main cast of the film, I loved every single supporting character in that movie. I loved Ed Harris as briefly as he was in it. He's a great actor.
Ed Harris is
Hamm,
awesome. John Hamm was great too. Yeah.
I loved his character as Cyclone.
I did not expect him to be in the movie. I didn't know he was in it at all.
And I love John Hamm. I was a big fan of Mad Men. I like his work a lot. He was probably my favorite supporting character in the movie. Penny was really good. The daughter was really good. I think his call
Hondo
sign
was really good.
Yeah, Hondo. That's who I was just gonna
Yeah.
say. He added some good levity to scenes. He brought some humor to it. Like when Maverick first begins teaching the class and he throws away the book and Hondo's just like, here we go.
Yeah. They were all really good. Even even Warlock, like the not the set right hand to like John Hamm's character. I think his call sign was Warlock.
I think so.
Just like when they at the end when they walk out onto the deck and John Hamm's kind of doing like that like expression of like, yeah, you know, you did it. Good job. He like secretly happy, but I'm not going to show emotion. And then Warlock is just like fist bumping the air. He's just like,
Warlock was kind of just like Maverick's silent cheerleader in that movie.
Yeah, no, I get that because even when there's that really funny scene where after the first training mission where they go below the hard deck.
Oh, big no.
And,
that's a law.
Yeah.
Immutable as gravity.
Yes, that's a very good quote. And then he like gets reamed out for going below the hard deck, and then he throws the paper on on the desk and is like, and John Hamm's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "Request to lower the hard deck, sir." And then they leave, and then Warlock is like, they joke a little bit, and I like that.
As a whole, this movie, and once again, I could still be riding the high on it. This might be like a top 5 movie of all time for me.
Oh, really? That's interesting. I would definitely put it up there. I thought it was going to be, because I love the Mission Impossible movies. I thought, okay, this is going to be at least as good as those. This is so much better. So much better. So much more heart, so much more emotion, and so such a deeper look into like a character that Tom Cruise can play. And I think, I don't know if it would be top 5 movies for me, but I mean, this is a movie that I'm probably going to buy a physical copy of.
I already ordered one. Steelbook is on the way.
Maybe I should get the Steelbook.
But like Tom Cruise as an actor and as probably more importantly as a producer, he's doing so much for action movies right now in terms of the effort he goes to bring real scenes, and by real scenes I mean excluding CGI, so practical effects, to the screen. And like ever since Rogue Nation, especially, whereas with the scene where Tom Cruise is on like the outside, well, he's
the plane.
No, that's
Isn't that Rogue Nation?
I thought Rogue Nation was the one where he goes to India. Oh no, that's Ghost Protocol. Ghost Protocol. Sorry, you're right. Yes. The tallest building in the world.
Burj Khalifa.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was like one of those scenes. So Tom Cruise and Christopher Nolan, I think, are two really big people who are kind of pushing the practical effects. Because Christopher Nolan has also done amazing things like the semi-flip in The Dark Knight, the Bane plane hijack in The Dark Knight Rises, which was just a gorgeous scene.
The plane crash in Tenet.
Yeah. Like, it's stuff like that where I honestly think these two people are leading the charge. It's scenes like that where you're kind of just pushing the envelope a little bit more. It does generally make me excited to see movies.
Well, talk about two director slash producer that really care about action movies as a genre. That's really fallen off in the past decade or so.
Yeah.
They've been the ones keeping it alive.
I have nothing but good things to say about Top Gun Maverick. My letterbox rating would be a 4.5, just because I do have the gripes about Rooster's story arc in terms of that being unearned, but just because it's a 4.5, once again, this is a top 5 movie, I think, for me. It's one that I couldn't recommend enough, and if you can go sneak your way into a theater to go see it, definitely do that.
Yeah, believe the hype. Believe it. It's way, way worth seeing in the theaters. And yeah, don't wait. It's like been out for a while now, so you can get into like a screening. To be fair, you saw it and you said the theater was still packed.
It was 4 weeks after its release, and I went to go see it at a noon showing, the earliest showing it could be. I rarely book tickets in advance because for the past 2 years, theaters have been absolutely empty. I can just walk in for a noon showing and there will be like 5 other people in the theater with me. So I didn't book a ticket. I go for the earliest showing, completely sold out. So then I had to book for the next showing, and it's like 90% sold out. And I'm like, shouldn't you guys be at church? Like, what are you doing here seriously at noon on a Sunday watching Top Gun?
Yeah, it's bringing people back to the theaters. I made a joke about Top Gun single-handedly saving theaters last week or on the last podcast, and I think that's exactly what's happening. It's showing people that the theaters are still relevant.
I mean, it's pushing $1 billion.
Yeah,
it's going to reach there pretty soon.
It's currently Tom Cruise's highest-grossing movie ever,
which also surprises me because Mission Impossible is fairly successful.
Yeah, I feel like Fallout did really well. Rogue Nation, not so much, but they all do consistently good. They always make a profit.
Oh,
like
definitely.
They're always a good bet. So, I would recommend this to literally everybody. It's so good. It's so good.
What would be your letterbox?
My letterbox score is 4 stars out of 5. I was gonna go 4.5,
proud.
but it's like I almost gave it a 5. I think this is a movie that has an enduring quality to it, and I think that my review will only go up if I reevaluate.
Hey, maybe I'll change on that second viewing. I also want to say, how did the person who directed Tron Legacy, Oblivion, I think those were his 2 main movies.
Yeah, those are the 2 big ones.
How did a person like that direct Top Gun Maverick? Completely different style, completely different filming technique. It blows my mind, but I'm not complaining.
Tron Legacy, it's not a bad movie.
I haven't seen it in so long, I couldn't even say.
I recently rewatched it, and I think technically it's a really good movie. The story is kind of whatever, but I will also say I liked Oblivion. And I think Oblivion used a lot of practical effects.
Oblivion's also one I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, Oblivion has a pretty good rating. It has a 7 on IMDb.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's not bad. But just a completely different style of movie. I don't know.
Oblivion, I do get what you mean. Like, Oblivion is a slow burn sci-fi movie with a bit of action. Whereas, Tron is just a CGI fest.
Oh, definitely.
To see him do Top Gun, I'm just so impressed. I think I'm gonna be looking forward to whatever he does next.
Who knows? Maybe I'll get a Top Gun Maverick poster and put it in my office.
Nice. Yeah, do it. Okay, but here's the real question though. Mm-hmm. What would be your call sign?
Oh my Kate! No, don't ask me that because I don't know. This is something that me and my partner talked about yesterday.
Do you choose your own, or is it given to you?
No, all the actors chose their own call sign here.
Okay.
So initially, Glenn Powell's character, he was gonna go with call sign Slayer, And then when the Air Force briefed them on like different call signs, one of the ones that they said commonly one of the ones that frequently comes up, pardon me, is Slayer. And he was just like, oh God, I can't pick a cliche. And then he eventually came out with Hangman, and like Miles Teller came up with Rooster because just the connection with Goose. The one which I may question on whether or not they picked was Bob, because there's like that joke later on where it's like, what's Bob stand for? Baby on board. So I don't know if that was like a pre-selected one or if they just came up with that joke because like they just thought of it after the call sign came up. Either could be completely possible, but yeah, no, they picked their own call signs. I doubt they could have picked their own call signs for the original Top Gun. I don't know whether they did or not, but for Maverick they did for sure.
Well, yeah, because how do you? They're so iconic, like Maverick, Iceman, Goose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like it maybe wasn't their choice, but no, I ask the call sign question. Maybe by the end of the podcast, we can say what our call signs would be. I don't know what mine would be either, but I just thought it would be funny to ask.
God, I would have to think about it. I really like Romeo would be a fun one, but I feel like that's cliche.
Yeah.
You could also do my last name because that was just kind of a nickname I had throughout school anyways.
Yeah.
Those would be like the two that come to mind, but I'm not necessarily satisfied with either.
Yeah.
My partner decided that her call sign would be Bluebird because she always has her hair dyed blue. And I thought that was a pretty cool call sign.
That is a good one. That is a good one. I feel like it would maybe be cliched to like use like a Roman or Greek god name, but I think Apollo would be pretty sick.
Oh, yeah, no, that's cool. I like it.
You know, Apollo, chariot, pulls the sun, you know.
Yeah, no, that's a good one.
About as much as I know, but yeah, good movie. I rate it 4 out of 5 stars.
Hey, strong rating.
Very strong. That's Top Gun Maverick. Now, we're going to talk about Top Gun. Because we don't have a question this week.
I liked the original Top Gun, like kind of like we talked about already. Neither of us seen it when it originally released, so we lost that nostalgia. But I think we both enjoyed it as an action movie, as a cheesy 80s movie. As we noted before, the characters were probably a little bit flat. I also felt that the emotional stakes in the movie were... we transitioned away from those and into those a lot more quickly than we did with Maverick. Maverick was a slow burn between Rooster and Maverick from start to end, whereas in Top Gun, it's like, okay, Goose has died. We're going to process this for 20 minutes. Okay, we're going to go out flying again and like honor Goose. The emotional stakes hit a lot quicker and then went away a lot quicker. But it's still, it hits the right notes where it counts, where it's just a bunch of alpha males flying in planes and you're having fun the whole time.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up like the transitioning of like from emotional to like action-packed scenes. It was not as subtle in Top Gun versus like Maverick. Maverick felt like a character study, whereas, or sorry, to be more specific, Top Gun Maverick felt like a character study and a good action movie, whereas like Top Gun felt like an action movie with like some emotion in it.
Yeah, and to be honest, not that much emotion. Like
it's like man emotion, like manly men emotion, like you said, alpha males.
But even like the original Top Gun wasn't shot with the same technology as Maverick, so you're not going to have cameras inside the cockpits, but it still did a fairly good job at making it feel real. Like looking back, you can obviously tell that there's probably like a green screen or something behind them, but they still recorded like planes flying in the air. Like they had a lot of B footage on that, and it still kind of helps put you in. So like for the 80s, or this movie was made 86, it did a good job. Like I don't have really anything bad to say about it. I'm sure actually at the time it was a pretty iconic.
Like it was
movie.
Cutting edge.
Yeah.
I mean, Ridley Scott produced it. Tony Scott, the director, is Ridley Scott's brother, I believe. Yeah, right. But I feel like it pushed for the time pushed the envelope of what could be done with these multi-million-dollar aircraft on film. And so it was ambitious. And I feel like the only way that Maverick would work is if it was more ambitious. And I think that's what made it work ultimately in the end. And I gotta say, like, I felt like, and this is like getting into more like out there kind of topics, but I felt with Top Gun, the original, it was a little more of like a Navy, like recruitment film. Like I got that feeling from it, and not in a bad way. Just I was like, oh yeah, this makes it look really cool to be in the Navy. Like really cool. With Maverick, I did not feel that way. I felt like the Navy and, a military operation and the Top Gun school were just a backdrop for these characters to live out this like emotional drama with an action movie. So I liked that about Maverick more.
Well, it's also worth noting that like in the original Top Gun, the movie, more than 3/4 of the movie is them actually in the Top Gun Academy competing for that #1 spot. Whereas Maverick, you're at Top Gun, the facilities, yes, but these are all students who just graduated from Top Gun Academy.
Yes, that is true.
We're skipping that whole school scene. Now where it's the real world. You're officially like a Top Gun pilot. The
pinnacle of missions, of all missions. Yeah.
So now it's time to like, it's that feeling where you're finally like finished university or high school, whatever degree of education you're pursuing, and it's like, oh crap. Now we're adults and we need to actually like join the real world. And that's kind of where Maverick comes in.
And Maverick like did the competition aspect from Top Gun. It still had that because like Hangman and Rooster were like fighting for like the lead spot. So I like that because it kept me invested. But it wasn't like, it was not a rivalry like Iceman and Maverick.
Yeah. Also, in terms of rivalries, when I was watching the original Top Gun, Iceman really wasn't that much of a dick. A lot of the things he was saying was true. He's like, Maverick, you shouldn't like be leaving your wingman behind, or you shouldn't be like leaving your wingman. Like you need to care about the people you're flying with. You're too reckless. It's like that's all stuff that's true.
Yeah, it is. He's actually trying to help Maverick.
Whereas Hangman in Top Gun Maverick, he was a dick. Like he's bringing up Rooster's dead dad.
He was actually trying to throw Rooster off.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they like Hangman and Rooster have like a moment, but it's not as like impactful.
Yeah.
It's like kind of sidelined by like the emotional impact of Maverick and Rooster, like having their moment. But it's still there, and it still was, I don't know, fun to see at the very least.
We're going to be talking about Point Break, obviously, later on. But it is interesting that Top Gun, this was like Tom Cruise's big movie after Risky Business, which was the first movie he actually led. But like Top Gun really like propelled his career into the stratosphere, and similar to Keanu Reeves in Point Break, because before Point Break, I think Keanu Reeves' biggest movie was Bill and Ted. This was also another movie that like kind of propelled his career into the stratosphere. These were like two
Bill and Ted before.
Yeah.
Oh. Wow.
And I think that was like his probably his biggest movie before. I don't think he did much beforehand.
Wow, so like turned him into an action hero. Like an action guy. I mean, he did go back to do another Bill and Ted movie.
Just looking at his filmography here.
I think Point Break is the perfect film for this week, though, because it also got a remake or a sequel. Yeah. Was it a sequel?
No, it was a remake.
A complete remake. Okay, so maybe not as similar as I originally thought. I think my point still stands, though. Like, this is a good way to do a remake / sequel and like pass the torch.
Yeah.
Whereas like Point Break seemed like the 2015 version, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's 2015. Like it just felt like, oh, we're just gonna do the same thing again with different actors.
The biggest difference between the original Point Break and the 2015 one is the original Point Break is really a bromance first, X Games showcase second. Whereas the 2015 movie was X Games first, bromance way at the back. It's just like the 2015 Point Break was really cool because they were doing like cliff jumping, they were skydiving, they were like the actual scenes. Yeah, they were really cool, but the characters weren't there. Whereas the original Point Break, it was character driven first, and then you get all these really cool scenes.
You know, I didn't realize that Catherine Bigelow directed Point Break, and she directed another favorite movie of mine. Two actually other favorite movies of mine: Zero Dark 30 and Hurt Locker.
Yeah, phenomenal director.
But yeah, like I love her stuff, and I part of the magic I think of Point Break is her direction. Like I think really
she does a great
ties
job.
it together. I think like she shows like that she plays that emotional bromance part, like, and just shows it in a light that's like really relatable, and like that being the emotional driver of the plot, like Bodhi and I guess we're just talking about Point Break now. We can just get into it.
Yeah, jump into it.
Between Johnny Utah and Bodhi, like that is such a great, impactful relationship, and she just does a real good job.
So I guess it's kind of starting with the plot for everyone.
Yeah.
Once again, reading straight from IMDb, because why do the work for yourself when someone else can do it for you?
Work smarter, not harder.
Oh, exactly. So in Los Angeles, California, a group of bank robbers call themselves the Ex-Presidents. Very iconic. The ex-presidents commit their crimes while wearing masks of the ex-presidents, Reagan, Carter, Nixon, and Johnson. The FBI believe that the members of the gang could be surfers and send a young agent, Johnny Utah, best name ever, undercover at the beach to mix with surfers and gather information. It is at that point that Utah meets a surfer by the name of Bodhi and gets drawn into the lifestyle of his new friend.
If I ever have a kid, I'm going to name him or name them Johnny Utah.
Oh my God, so iconic.
Or at least like maybe put Utah as their middle name.
I honestly don't know. I can't think of a more iconic name. Or like a more action appropriate name right now.
No, seriously, for the movie, like I guess like for an action movie, like yeah, Johnny Utah is like probably the best. Like a second for me though is Salacious Crumb from Return of the Jedi. I feel like that is a hilarious name. I'm not sure if you're familiar.
Salacious Crumb.
Yeah, if you can Google it, but it's like it's like Jabba's like little friend.
Oh,
like,
the little rat?
The little rat, yeah.
Oh my God.
It did not have a name before the re-release of the movie when they added all the CGI, but yeah, that Salacious
What a great
Crumb,
name.
It's a very good name. But anyways, back to Point Break. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, this is Top Gun. We had a lot of praise to say about the technical filmmaking, the nostalgia, everything about it, right? While this movie is by no means poorly shot, it's a very well directed movie. It's the type of movie for me where you don't go in analyzing it. You just go in, you sit down, you enjoy it, you get your fill of like just an exorbitant amount of cheese, and you just like shut your mind off and enjoy the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what cements it as a classic in my mind. You can go in and you can have fun. You don't need to be into surfing. You don't need to necessarily love Keanu Reeves or Patrick Swayze, but it all comes together in like a really fun package.
And it's like Keanu Reeves, he has like this really, it's a really fake like surfer accent that he puts on during this, like this heavy bro accent. And it's just like, yeah, you could like pick that apart if you want, but I'm sure it was also intentional. And it also made me like the movie even more. Like I had such enjoyment from just listening to Keanu talk with his just awful but also perfect accent for this movie.
Huh. I'm just looking up Keanu Reeves, like where he's from. He was born in Beirut, Lebanon.
What?
But yeah. Yeah. But he's technically Canadian.
Yeah, no, I think he is Canadian.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
shouldn't
he
say
must be
was.
Canadian. Yeah, what happened to Keanu? Yeah, Canadian citizen. But that's not surprising. But the fact that he's from Beirut, that's very interesting.
But you get like this movie is so quotable. Like two of my favorite quotes are,
Yeah, lay him on me.
"What? You're a real Blue Flame special, aren't you? Young, dumb, and full of cum." That was so stupid.
That's a good one. I was hoping you would bring that one up.
Or like towards the end of the movie where Keanu's like, "You gonna jump or jerk off?" There's so many stupid lines
Infinitely
in this movie.
quotable.
Yeah, and it's so good.
Yeah. And then you take all of those, like all of that into account. Like it's got the cheese, it's got the fun performances that you can kind of lose, a fun like world that you can lose yourself in. And then it like puts on these crazy stunts, like jumping from planes, surfing these like crazy waves. I think you said it was like a kind of like an X Games showcase. I think you're 100% right. It is like pushing the bounds of like extreme sports and like filming of this extreme sports, because like I didn't know how they got some of the shots of them surfing.
It was a mix. Well, even for the skydiving, it was a mix between like actual skydivers and cut between stage
like
skydiving,
like a wind tunnel.
But even for like the iconic scene towards the end where Keanu jumps out of an airplane without a parachute. That was real. Like Keanu wasn't doing it. They had a stunt double jump through, and they basically had a contraption where something would happen, which would like, I don't know if it would like tear open his jacket or something, but a parachute would eventually come up. So he did actually jump out. He had a parachute, but it obviously didn't look like that in the film. So then all the air shots where they're actually skydiving, and especially those far back shots, those were all real. And then in terms of like the scenes where you see like Bodhi's face or Keanu, or where like Keanu's hugging Bodhi, that would be in it. I don't think it was it might have been a wind tunnel. My understanding is they were basically on like two big telescopic arms where they could like kind of free fall apart from each other or something. I don't know, but they mixed stage shots with the actual stunt double shots, which was
I searched around for like behind the scenes footage, but I couldn't find anything that was like really worth watching, because I wanted to see how they did the shots of them skydiving. Maybe that would be worth picking up, like the Blu-ray, to like see the behind the scenes stuff. Yeah. Like a making of thing. But yeah, what did you think of, I mean, like obviously like we could go like plot point by plot point, but what did you think of like the last like third of the movie, like after Bodhi sort of figures out that Johnny's like from the FBI? Like, yeah, what did you think of like how they handled that ending, like the ending of the whole movie?
Okay, for me, I liked it because Bodhi to me is a character who was incredibly arrogant in his own way, and he truly believed that he saw this thing in Johnny Utah where he had that same itch, the same adrenaline rush, he felt that Johnny kind of was a kindred spirit in that regard. So it's like, yeah, he's an FBI agent, but you know what? I'm the one who can turn him to the other side. We can get him to join our cause. And it's that arrogance which kind of like led to this extreme domino effect where everything suddenly is falling apart. But I believed it from, that's how Bodhi would probably handle it. I truly believe that was how that character would respond in that situation.
Yeah, that's what it's interesting that you brought up that connection between the two characters, because I really do think that Johnny and Bodhi were basically the same character had they gone like had Johnny had the different trajectory like in his life, I guess, for lack of a better word. I really liked the last scene where like he lets Bodhi go catch that like mega storm wave, and Johnny just like throws his badge like into the water. I was like, that's pretty awesome. That is a really, really satisfying ending. I was impressed by it. It's like I can't really think of any other way to describe my feelings of this movie other than it's a really great action movie. And I had pretty low expectations going into it. And yeah, I was pleasantly surprised.
During that scene that you mentioned, the end scene where Bodhi goes off into the into the death waves, Keanu tells him like "Vea con Dios" or something.
Yes.
It turns out that translates into
what does
like
that mean?
"May God be with you" or something along those lines. So it's like
okay.
Keanu, he was literally just giving Bodhi the opportunity to commit suicide, so he didn't have to be trapped
go out
in that
on his own terms.
Like he empathized with him, like to some degree. You're right, where these are just two people who one person took a right at the fork of the road and the other person took a left, but like they were still friends to a degree. They respected each other to a degree.
It's a respect thing, totally. Mm-hmm. Yeah, good ending. Very good ending.
It was a very iconic ending, and the action scenes were all well done. Like stepping outside of the surfing scenes or the skydiving scenes, there's a really iconic chase scene in the movie where they're going through like this whole community, busting through doors, running through houses. Really well shot. And like just to speak to how iconic Point Break is, and maybe this is might be why I think Point Break is so iconic. You got movies like Hot Fuzz referencing it, like that scene where Johnny Utah flips on his back and he screams and he unloads his gun. The same scene, they ripped that off in Hot Fuzz.
Well, and they even show the scene in Hot Fuzz too. Yeah. Clearly, who's the guy who directed Hot? Edgar Wright. Yeah, Edgar Wright. Clearly, he is a fan.
Yeah,
of Point Break.
You made something good when Edgar Wright kind of spoofs off of it.
Yeah,
riffs off of it rather.
Yeah, and it definitely even like the idea of bank robbers like wearing masks like the president, like other movies have done that, or like the president's other movies have done that. And I had no idea that, and maybe they're not all referencing Point Break, but I'm pretty sure the ones that I've seen do it are calling, like they're basically calling back to Point Break. Like there's a lot of like little elements that have been incorporated into other movies.
I don't know if this is something that other people have necessarily talked about. But in terms of Johnny Utah's relationship with, what's her name? Tyler. I almost feel like one of the reasons why that relationship might be so iconic, because at least kind of in my little circle, it's a fairly well-known cinematic relationship. I feel like it benefited from having a female director and a female perspective, because when you get a lot of these action movies, you could look at Top Gun 1, for example. The main character comes in, he's cool as hell, he just gets the girl, immediately sleeps with her, and it's just... It's this fictionalized progression.
It's made for the male gaze.
Yes, but whereas this one, the relationship was hella awkward for a lot of it. Mm-hmm. Like it was naturally awkward.
Yeah.
So I like that part. Like there's, to me, it's a fairly iconic scene where he's like, when they first meet, and he's like, "My name is Johnny Utah," and she screams back, "Who cares?"
Yeah. That is an iconic line.
Yeah. I just thought the relationship was done pretty well, and I feel like that type of relationship where it's just naturally awkward isn't something you see very often in an action movie of this caliber.
Yeah, it's interesting that you maybe attribute that to it being a female director, because I think you're kind of right on the money. I don't think it would have been as well done if it was a man directing it, because I feel like Catherine Bigelow And so like I originally said, she portrayed Johnny and Bodhi's relationship in a really interesting way. I feel like that extends to Johnny and Tyler's relationship too.
Yeah. Just a random thought on Bodhi. Turns out, I don't know if it was before or during this movie, but Patrick Swayze got really into recreational skydiving. And apparently the insurance companies were getting really mad about that. So eventually they had to strike a deal where Patrick Swayze would stop jumping from airplanes on the side recreationally, and instead they would give him like a big airplane jumping scene that he could do in the movie, and that's how they compromised. But it's funny to see when like insurance companies get involved and like are telling people what they can or can't do during these movies. It gets interesting to me.
That's a weird legal thing, like in the background. I would have never have thought that to be an issue, but I guess because Patrick Swayze is worth, or well, still is maybe, but he's worth so much that like the life insurances, like they obviously don't want to pay out normally, but that would be a massive payout if you were to get into an accident.
Well, and even for the movie, you'd have to reshoot
true.
everything that was done beforehand, because they definitely didn't have CG back then.
They couldn't put him back in after. They didn't face scan him.
No, we barely have that technology now.
Yeah, that's
like
wild.
it's just starting to get to the point where it's sort of believable.
Do you think, this is kind of on a tangent, but it's about Maverick. Do you think they de-aged Tom Cruise as much as they do in like the Mission Impossible movies? He looks older in this. Because I know they digitally de-age him usually. Or is that just an urban myth?
To be honest, I've never heard of that before.
Where did I read that?
It's definitely possible, but it could, like, honestly, there could be so much touch-up work being done, or even just makeup helps a lot. Yeah. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I don't know if they would have had a reason to de-age him in this movie, because, like, canonically, this is 30 years later.
Yeah.
So it only makes sense for him to be, a man in his 50s who kind of looks like a man in his 50s. But there's no doubt that all of his features have been smoothed out.
Because he's 57.
I know, and he's still doing this stuff. He's crazy.
Yeah, he is insane. So apparently, like, yeah, digital de-aging obviously is like a thing. To the extent the extent to which they do it in this movie, it's debatable. And because a lot of the times they either completely replace the actor with a CGI version, or they do thinking of like Robert De Niro in The Irishman. Like, I think they did a combination of like CG and actual actor. But yeah, it's just an interesting thought, because like there are some critics that I follow who kind of make fun of Tom Cruise for having like things written into his contract of like, and this is potentially just hearsay. So allegedly that in the contracts, like there is like a certain amount of digital de-aging that's done. And there's some kind of clause about he can't have, I don't know. The more I think about it, this is maybe just a meme, but the way they like shoot the movies with Tom Cruise, like they shoot in a way that he doesn't look short.
Oh no, he's stood on boxes for scenes. He's considerably smaller than many actors.
Well, and that was a comment that my partner made when we watched Top Gun, is that like you see a lot of scenes where Tom Cruise is just his actual height and he's way shorter than everybody else. Whereas like in the Mission Impossible movies, you wouldn't be able to tell because of those tricks that they do. Yeah. So anyways, it just like wouldn't surprise me if there was something written into his contract about digital de-aging, if there's like stuff written into his contract about the way he is shot on screen to not make him look short. It could just be all hearsay though. I didn't do a ton of research into it because it was kind of just just a funny little thing that could be true, but Yeah.
I mean, like apparently with Vin Diesel and The Rock, they have clauses in their contracts on like how many times they can get hit or like whether or not they can lose a fight. So like it wouldn't. There's crazy things that appear in these contracts. So who knows? Like in terms of Top Gun Maverick, I wouldn't see a need for him to be digitally de-aged, but like they're actors and obviously they're gonna be looking pristine.
Yes, they are. They have enough makeup already, like more than the average person would.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, final thoughts on Point Break?
You know what? Kind of just what we said before. This is the movie that you go into and you shut your mind off and you just enjoy it. For the time, I think it was also like Top Gun. It was pretty envelope pushing in terms of these are people jumping out of planes. These are people surfing big waves, and we're all capturing this on screen. But like at the heart of it, this is like a really good bromance story about two people who have lived divergent lives who have this mutual respect for each other. It's cops and robbers with a good, I mean, not a message. It's cops and robbers with like a real heart to it. In terms of like a letterbox rating, I'd probably give it like a 3.5.
Yeah. My thoughts are the exact same. I think it ran the risk of being extremely cliched, and it wasn't. And that's nice. I went into it with pretty low expectations, and I had a great time. It's a movie that I'll watch again. And I actually rated it 4 stars.
Is this the first time you've seen Point Break?
Yeah.
Oh, no way. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So, because, and again, like Top Gun, I've had the cultural osmosis of Point Break wash over me, and I kind of know about it, and I knew it was about surfers. Yeah. I've seen it referenced in TV shows.
Hot Fuzz.
Hot Fuzz. I mean, like American Dad does an episode where Stan has to do the same thing that Johnny Utah does with surfers. I didn't realize that was an allusion to Point Break, but now I know, and I really, really enjoyed all of the stunts.
Wow, this was just a fun movie. Little throwback to the 80s and early 90s spirit.
It was good. I feel like last week we talked about some pretty heavy topics with Candyman and the Empty Man. This was a nice
palate cleanser.
Palate cleanser, yes, exactly. Speaking of the next podcast, we are switching some things up from our original schedule. Not like you guys would know this, but we're telling you anyways. Next week, we're going to watch The Green Knight and The Spine of Night. Those are going to be the 2 movies we watch. I'm really excited to watch Green Knight again.
We've both seen The Green Knight. I haven't seen The Spine of Night. So I'm excited. It looks beautifully animated.
Yeah, I was really drawn to the animation style. That's why I picked it. And it seems like very similar vibes to The Green Knight. And I think Green Knight on another watch through is going to be really fun. So yeah, that's the podcast. Thank you for listening, everybody. And if you want to check out our Instagram, we are. The link is in the show notes below. If you want to support the show, listening is more than enough. If you have the time, maybe think about leaving a review. It helps us get to the front page, increases our rankings. Overall, very good for the show. If you want to do more than just leave a review, you can go to our Patreon at BTF Pod. Link will be in the show notes, and you can sign up for some tiers. We have a few more reviews on the way. I know I talked about this last time. It's in the pipeline. It'll be there soon. And
until next time, folks.
Yeah, like Riley said, until next time, everybody have a good week. A special shout out to our patrons, Pixel Witch and Amy Richards. Thank you for your support.